Hello and welcome to Interfaith Outreach Quick Start Guide to Interviewing. Today we're going to talk about preparing for the interview, what you need to know ahead of time, types of interviews you might have, common questions that might be in an interview, and then any follow-up that needs to happen. So to prepare for the interview, there's quite a few things that you can do. First of all, you'll want to request a job description if you haven't already been provided one or don't feel like you have a good understanding of the role from the job posting. Research the company, make sure you know about the company and its values and goals, as well as understanding the position and role that you are applying to. Get really clear about why you are interviewing, why you're qualified for this position, and why you want this job. Make sure to have hard copies of your resume. If you're interviewing online over a remote platform, have one that you can email in. Review questions based on the job. We'll have some later, but there might be some that are more tailored to the job you're applying to. And then do some practice, whether that's in front of the mirror, practicing speaking and your posture, or doing a mock interview. And that's something you could do with an interfaith staff member or volunteer. And in that as well, you can practice behavioral interview responses, which we'll talk about later. Prepare some questions that you want to ask your interviewer. That's really important to show your interest in the position, as well as give them time to explain more about the position. And then be prepared for the start of the interview, whether that's if you need to travel to the interview, set up your computer or phone. Always make sure you dress for the interview, even if it's over the phone. It can kind of build that confidence and that mental state of being in an interview setting. Some types of interviews you might see are screening interviews. And those are done often by phone or video platforms. Now we're seeing screening interviews and selection interviews being done over those platforms, but become familiar with those types of online sources that they may use, Zoom, Skype, other pieces. Again, you can talk to an interfaith employment counselor about some of those virtual platforms that may be used. A selection interview is more in-depth questions. The screening interview is kind of just to get to know you, see if you might be a good fit. And then the selection interview is really asking you those in-depth questions. There may be multiple rounds of this type of interview, and they're really assessing the best candidate. In those processes, you may also encounter a group or panel style interview where there's more than one interviewer that are asking questions, and it's possible there could also be more than one candidate if it's a group style interview. Make sure in this type of interview, if there's multiple interviewers, that you're establishing connections with each individual in the room. Here's a list of some common interview questions. Again, if you talk to an interfaith employment counselor, we can give you an even more expanded list. But some common things that you might see are telling the interviewer about yourself, seeing what interests you about the position, walking through your resume, and then there may be some tougher questions like why you're leaving your current employer or why there's a gap in your employment history. How you handle challenging situations, what type of work culture you're looking for. So you can read through these different questions, and then we'll also go through some examples. So for some example responses, if they're asking you, tell me about yourself, you want to kind of focus on 3 different areas. You want to give your current and most recent experience and why it's applicable. You want to share your past skills and experiences that are relevant to the position. You don't need to necessarily talk about your entire work history, but things that are relevant. And then you also want to link your skills to why you're qualified for this particular job. Keeping it really informative, but also making it succinct. I would say not more than a couple minutes. Why do you want to leave your current employer? Talk about the things that you're excited about, the responsibilities that you're excited to take on and transfer. Keep it really positive. How do you handle stress in challenging situations? Be honest. And then like the previous questions, stay positive. What are ways that are helpful for you in coping with stress or working through challenges? And give them an example of that. And then talking about your short and long-term goals. That's good to reflect on ahead of time so that you can give a good answer in the moment. Often in interviews, there can be tough questions. These will be different for each individual, but the general practice is the same. You want to answer honestly, don't avoid the question, but you can frame it well. And so to frame that, you want to start with something positive, acknowledge the difficult question and answer it, but you don't need to give more information than is necessary. And then you want to emphasize growth and positive movement forward. And so an example of that might be, in my last position, the way I think and innovate was not the same as the company's method. I was let go from that position, and I'm excited that I had time to discover what I'm really looking for in a company that reflects that similar style, such as yours. So identifying that this company is within that same style that you work in. So again, you're answering honestly, but framing it in that positive and growth-oriented mindset. Behavioral interview questions are less about the specific position and more about how you interact and behave at work. And so this can be about communication skills, decision making, teamwork, conflict, problem solving. You'll see a lot of these types of questions. And on the side there, you can see some examples of those questions. So it's really good to think about those and practice those with different behavioral components because they will often come up in an interview. The next piece is the STAR method, and this is a method that is often used when answering interview questions. So in the STAR method, there are 4 pieces: situation, task, action, and results. So as you can see by the example, the question may be, tell me about a time when a work project didn't go as planned. You want to set up the situation, give them the context of what you're thinking about. I'm thinking of something that happened while I was working at a local university. Give them the task. What were you doing? I was presenting to a group of teachers on how to begin their job search and had prepared a PowerPoint with links to the videos. What went wrong? Unfortunately, the AV equipment wouldn't work, and I was unable to utilize the visual presentation I had prepared. Then the action. What did you do? Fortunately, I had copies of the slides to refer to and distribute, and I knew my material. This experience tested my presentation skills, and I incorporated more interactive activities such as role play and questions from the group. So that gives a really positive spin on how they handled this situation. And then what were the results? What happened at the end? After my initial frustration, I knew I had to move quickly so that I wouldn't lose my audience. In the end, we covered the same material and I had a lot of audience participation. I think the experience made me a better presenter and taught me to expect the unexpected. So again, ending on that positive note and giving a really solid outline of what happened in that particular situation. At the end of the interview, you want to wrap up well. So again, as we discussed right at the beginning, you want to ask questions. So prepare those ahead of time. Look at the job description and the company and formalize some questions that are about the specific position. Find out what the next step is in the interviewing process. When will they be making a hiring decision? Get a timeline for yourself. Then you'll want to collect the business cards of interviewers, or again, if it's remote, you may just want to get their email addresses, a best method of contacting them. And then you also want to make sure that you send a professional thank you, and that could be a written note card or an email, and you want to do that within 24 to 48 hours. So here at Employment Services, we can help you with a lot of things, including interview preparation and practice interviews. We can also offer career guidance, job search strategies, resume and cover letter assistance, job alerts, unemployment assistance, and we often have a job search lab. We are operating at a smaller scale for that right now, but we do have one computer that can be used outside our facility on certain days of the week. So connect with us. We would love to connect you to these different resources and help you with your job search. Thank you so much, and we look forward to working with you.